Okay, guys, grab a cozy blanket, get a nice hot cup of tea or hot chocolate or something comforting, because today's video is definitely going to be a little creepier. Before we can dive in, I'm actually drinking a pumpkin spice chai. I made myself this same combo again. In case you missed it, there was an earlier Talktober episode of week 1 where I combined these two types of tea together, and it is the best combo ever. Today, I want to talk about the theory of ghosts, whether or not they're real, what could be the meaning behind such things and such occurrences and such experiences, whether or not I have any ghost stories, or I guess you could say like updates on a ghost story. And when I say ghosts, I'm talking about the idea that there are spirits that when their physical bodies leave this planet, their energy or their spirit lingers around. Now, when you think of a ghost, you might think of like scary, creepy ghost hunters or like ghost busters, where there are places that might be like haunted and there may be heavier or scarier ghost energy that lingers in those areas. But on the other side, I feel like ghosts could also be theorized to be spirits on the other side. Let's say that there's like a veil, okay? A veil of this dimension, of this existence. And our souls, when they leave our body and move on to the next thing, is it possible that they linger around for a little while and might actually be a sense of comfort? Or I read this book back in the summertime. It was called Golden Girl. And it basically talked about how when this woman dies in the book, and this is not going to spoil anything, but she is able to go to this place where she can like watch her children's lives unfold for a while and almost like be there but not, and push around or create these little like nudges in the real world. And so that's what I think about as almost like a comforting idea of a spirit or a ghost. Now, there are many people that also claim to be mediums and can interpret or communicate with the other side, or with spirits that are trapped on the other side, or maybe even communicate and create a dialogue between people that have lost loved ones. I don't really fully know where I sit on the matter. I've actually never had to sit down and unpack it before. I love hearing all of the different theories, but if I were to like pitch my flag somewhere and be like, okay, this is where I stand with ghosts, I think I could settle for the idea that we definitely have souls, in my belief, that are inside of these bodies, a state of consciousness, if you will. And I do think that for the most part, that consciousness, that energy can eventually be renewed or transform into something new. However, I think that when you have very strong ties to certain things, whether it is a place, whether it is an experience, or whether it is love or a person, I think that maybe that could be a strong enough force that when your physical body leaves this earth or leaves this dimension of time and space, your spirit is able to linger in a sense. And in that spirit, do I feel like it's your actual being walking around in like a translucent version of your body? No, not necessarily. But I think two things. One, I think that for the most part, when we call upon people that we've lost, or we call upon the dead, if you will, or the past, or people that have, gone to the other side, I think that in a way we actually are activating their spirit by bringing forth their name, by bringing forth their memory. And in a way we can feel their energy for that reason. But I also think that spirits, or ghosts, if you will, could also be, I don't want to use the word trapped, but I want to use like it's almost like a piece of their spirit, a piece of their soul, a piece of their experience that was so powerful might actually hold or anchor them to a certain spot or a certain place. And maybe the way to get through or to let go or to get to the other side would be to finish some business. Specifically, I think of like places that are haunted, or if there's somebody that feels like physically you can feel the spirit of somebody that might not have been fully gone yet. Like, I wonder if two things. I wonder if, one, they feel that they have unfinished business. Maybe that unfinished business could be just even protecting the loved ones they've left behind, or processing the experience they've had, and that's why they're stuck in a certain place. This is making me think more of like haunted houses and such. Or maybe we're just making the whole thing up and we just like create this eerie sense because we don't know how ourselves, as waking, living, presently alive beings, we don't know how to process some of the traumas, some of the creepy things, or some even just circumstances, some coincidences that we have to create some kind of explanation, so we just immediately drag it to ghosts. So pretty much I just explained and walked in circles around how I have no idea where I stand on this theory, but I do have some fun stories that I would like to unpack. The first being, back in 2015, when I lived with my friend Maggie, we lived in a place that was built in the 1800s on Queen Street in Kingston, Ontario. And Kingston, Ontario has a lot of history and specifically is known to be pretty haunted. This place definitely opened me up to believing in something. I don't know necessarily what. I never got a bad feeling from it, but there were certain things that happened to us while we were living in that house that just did not make sense. And I think that's why it's hard for me to close out on the theory of ghosts entirely, because these were things that were just so far past beyond coincidental that there was no explanation for it. One being, one time I came home from a trip. Maggie wasn't home. She went and stayed at her parents' house for the night. Our TV was on and blaring, which, okay, maybe you could explain that as like the power went out and the power came back on, and for whatever reason it turned on the TV and made it go on to like full blast. But all of our pictures, we had this big wall in our kitchen, all of our pictures were tilted sideways. One. Two, there was a time where, again, Maggie wasn't home and I was upstairs, and I thought Maggie came home because I heard a big bang and it sounded like a door slamming. And I went to the top of the stairs where my room was and I called for Maggie and she didn't answer. So I actually physically called her on the phone and was like, "Are you here?" And she was like, "No." And I went downstairs and we had two cupboards, original cupboards, and they were open and all of the canned goods, all of the potatoes were all on the ground. So that was two. Three, there was an attic that they had turned into a closet. That became my closet. There was a burn mark when we came. I don't remember exactly the logistics. I don't know if we came home and we saw it or what happened, but there was a burn mark, or like, what's it called, where you like burn a candle and there's that, you know, the feeling if you were to touch a candle wick, what that would be, that like black residue that was on the slanted roof and a handprint had been dragged through it. And four, her and I were watching TV one time. We turned one of the bedrooms into a living room because we didn't need a third bedroom. And we were coming out of the living room into the kitchen, and from the hallway. So this is going to be hard to describe, but like we're walking this way, the entrance to like leave or enter the kitchen is over to the right, okay? And there's a door frame. And through the door frame came Bentley's little Kong toy at like a high, it had height, okay? It would have been as if someone was in the hallway and threw it in. We thought we were seeing things because we couldn't explain how that had just happened. And Bentley was with us. So that was the first time that I ever really felt like I was in a place where there was definitely something going on. It never felt bad. If anything, for whatever reason, we always thought that it was like a little kid. And we always felt like it was a kid like trying to almost like play with us or something. Like it never gave me bad energy. But I do remember feeling a sense of contentment moving out of that place because I never really felt like it followed me. There were a couple times over the years where like I used to have an Xbox and it used to turn on by itself all the time. But like, I just kind of chalked that up to maybe it just being like a software issue, right? So nothing's really happened until living in this house, and nothing too creepy has happened, but there is one thing that has stood out to me, and this actually happened more recently. And again, can't really explain how it happened. My explanation doesn't necessarily have to be ghosts, but let me unpack it first. So one day I'm here with Easton. It's like afternoon time. I'm expecting Ryan to be home soon. Both of our cats are indoor-outdoor cats. So they spend a lot of time outside, especially during the daytime when it's nice out. And this was like early summer. Without making this too long of a story, I'm in the living room and I can see outside through our kitchen window. I can see the front door. So I knew nobody was at the front door, right? Because I would have seen if someone had went up and like knocked or was like, you know, dropping off a delivery parcel, anything of that matter. All of a sudden, I see the cats come down the hallway. And I'm sitting on the couch with Easton and I'm like, oh, Dad's home. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, Ryan must have come home, opened the door and let the cats in. So I'm kind of sitting there looking at the hallway, watching Kalyn and Kalyn come around the corner. And I'm like, oh, how you guys, like, the only way they could have gotten in was through any of the doors. Our back door creaks like crazy. So I would have heard the creak if anybody had opened the back door. The only door that doesn't make a sound is our front door. And so in my mind, I'm like, that's the only way that they could have gotten in, and they're coming from the hallway. So again, that makes sense, right? I'm kind of waiting there and Ryan doesn't come around the corner and I'm like, that's weird. So I pick Easton up I walk over to the cats and I'm like, how did you guys get inside? And I look and the front door isn't open, the back door isn't open. So it wasn't like the wind somehow pushed either door open either. So then I start getting a little creeped out because I walk back to the deck and like we have a lot of windows in the house and I can see that Ryan's truck actually isn't home. So all of a sudden my mind is like running in circles, trying to figure out how the cats got inside the house if I didn't let them in the house. And no windows were open, no doors were left open, but somehow they went from outside to inside and came walking down the hallway. This creeped me out so much. Like I went through every possible scenario. My sister drew diagrams. Like we were trying to figure this out. I called Ryan and he was like, no, I'm on my way home right now. What do you mean? And like the only thing that I could make an explanation for was that like maybe our neighbor came in and let the cats in, but why wouldn't the neighbor say hi? Maybe a delivery person, but no deliveries were there that day. Like it's not like there was a package at the front door or anything. And that the only other thing I could think of was like maybe someone wanted to break in and steal and realized I was home and then left. But like, why would you let our cats in? Like it was just so confusing. Couldn't figure out for the life of me. Since then, we've installed security cameras around our house and it's never happened since. But it has creeped me out to this day because I still don't have an explanation for it, and that makes me super uncomfortable. I just want to know how they got inside. Like, I wish cats could talk sometimes. I'm like, tell me your secrets. So yeah, I don't know where I stand. I definitely believe in something, but the thing that really has to come into play, at least for me, when it comes to things like ghosts, is that I also believe in there being multiple dimensions. And so when I have to come up with an explanation of how ghosts could even be a true theory, or the only thing I could think of is there being almost like radio stations in terms of our dimensions and the physical dimension, the 3D dimension. It's where we are all at right now. And that when we leave our bodies, we go to further dimensions, but maybe, just maybe, certain spirits either don't advance by choice or don't advance by circumstance, or like, again, through whatever it is that actually blocks that person from being able, or that spirit from being able to advance to further dimensions. Maybe they have unfinished business, maybe they have loved ones that they want to wait for, maybe there's people here they want to protect, things they need to figure out, traumas they need to process. But the only thing that doesn't make sense about that to me is, okay, let's say that that's true. Let's walk into that reality and pretend that that is the answer. How could a spirit stuck in just like an off-tune dimension, like almost like you're playing with the radio and you're not right on the station, you're like one notch off the station, so it's staticky, but you're still there. You can still hear the radio. So like the spirit is here, they can see things, they can hear things, they're watching things play out. How are they able to manipulate things in the 3D dimension? That's the part that gets me. Like when I think about Bentley's toy coming into the hallway, when I think about the pictures being turned, when I think about the handprint, when I think about the door being opened for the cats, like that is where it gets me, where it's like, how could that be? It stumps me. It really does. And the other thing that actually stumps me about it too is the idea of time being an illusion. Like the minute you leave Earth's atmosphere, time isn't the same. I mean, this goes so far into like what's on the other side of a black hole. Is that like the tunnel to another dimension? We don't know. I would love to know, but we don't know. However, coming back to ghosts, I wonder if time is just an illusion, if time is just this linear thing that we only experience as human beings here on Earth, at least from what we know and what we experience, that it changes and it's different in other places in the universe, then like how does that factor into the whole ghost theory? If you died in the past, but the past, present, future are actually simultaneously or could simultaneously be happening. Do you get what I'm getting at here? Like how do you explain that? I know I'm getting too far with this, but it's hard for me not to go down every possible wormhole when trying to actually figure out where I stand on a theory. So I would love to hear what you think. What are your thoughts on the theory of ghosts? Do you believe ghosts to be real? Do you have any ghost experiences? Do you want to share them? I would love to hear them. Other than that, thanks for hanging out on today's Theory Thursday. I'm going to drink the rest of my tea and try not to think about all the ghost things now that it's late at night and I'm home by myself with Easton. So I don't know why I decided to film this tonight, but here we are.